Today is Tuesday, October the 14th, 2025, about 2:51 in the afternoon, and I'm about to take you on a tour of old Decatur, Alabama. The tour is a 24-stop trip, I believe. You're looking at the first one. This is the old State Bank. If you've watched any of my videos from last year, then you've seen this building before. It's a very nice building. What I'm going to do is read you the history of each of these things as we come across them and let you know exactly everything about it. So again, this is the old State Bank. This is at 925 Bank Street. And so it says this: the old old State Bank was built in 1833 at a cost of $9,842. It opened that year as a branch of the Alabama State Bank and was profitable until 1837. After the bank accumulated outstanding debts of over $1 million, its franchise was revoked. The banking system's dissolution in 1842 was blamed on political shenanigans and poor lending practices. An economic depression that struck in 1837 also played a part. Old State Bank is the oldest standing bank building in Alabama, and because the Union Army used the bank as a hospital, it is one of only 4 buildings in Decatur that survived the destruction of the town. The building supported a variety of uses after it was no longer utilized by the bank. It served as a house, a restaurant, and even as a fraternal hall for the American Legion. In 1934, the building was restored by the Civil Works Administration, a federal program that created jobs during the Great Depression. Carolyn Courtner Smith, Alabama's first woman to practice architecture, oversaw the work. In 1946, Leila Cantwell Seton Edmondson, what a name there, huh? Donated the building to the city of Decatur. Known for her excellent farm management skills, Miss Edmondson served on the executive committee for the National Farmers Union and was known as Alabama's Cotton Queen. In 1922, she became the first female to run for Congress in Alabama. The bank was renamed Leila Cantwell Seton Hall in her honor. In 1972, the old State Bank was listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Currently owned by the city, the bank is open for free tours. In the garden area behind the bank is a small detached building with public restrooms. So hopefully you've enjoyed that little tale, and you see the bank. And sorry, that road there, which is 72. One of the main roads through here is very busy, and so I just wanted to show you this building here. And this is where our tour is going to start, and then we're going to head down this way towards Bank Street. Okay, this sign is a little hard to see, I know, because of the sun, but we are at the corner of Church Street and Bank Street. Both of them say northeast. So this here is Bank Street straight ahead of us. And there's a couple of buildings on here we're going to look at in detail, but this is just one of the stops that just wanted me to show you the historic Bank Street, as they call it. So let's go down here and take a look at these buildings. Okay, this building across the street from us is at 725 Bank Street, and it's the first of two we're going to look at on this street. This is called Simp McGee's. And here, if I come over this way a little bit, if you look up there just to the right of that light over there, then you'll see it says Simp McGee's on that building. I can hopefully be able to get in on that to show you. But anyway, what it says about this is stop number 3. This is at 725 Bank Street. And it says on the west corner of Bank and Lafayette Streets, you'll see Simp McGee's, a restaurant named after quite a character from Decatur's history. Simp was a riverboat captain in the 1880s who was renowned for having a beer-swilling pet pig for a drinking companion. He diversified Decatur's holdings, included a saloon here on Bank Street and a house of ill repute. There are many stories about Simp, but the most famous is his relationship with Kate Lackner, known as Miss Kate. She was married, and the mother of a young son with Simp met and fell in love with her. Simp and Kate never married, but she eventually purchased his house of ill repute, which was known as a gentleman's sporting house. It was said that Miss Kate had the loveliest ladies in all of Tennessee Valley. She paraded her girls up and down Bank Street on Sunday afternoons, first in horse-drawn carriages, then in open automobiles or convertibles. So there you go. There's the history of that. Okay, this here is stop number 4, and it is at 502 Bank Street. And it's called the Old Hargrove and Murdoch Grocery. It says on the corner of Bank and Cherry Streets is a charming building built in 1897 on land owned by the Decatur Mineral and Land Company. For old-timers, it is best remembered as the location of Hartgrove and Murdoch Grocery circa 1925 until 1942. So a year after World War II, then it ended. This store ended. Before that, it housed a tin shop and a marble cutting enterprise. The main level features original arch windows on the west side and oval windows believed to be original on the south side. On the inside walls, where the exterior brick is exposed, visitors might see fibers in the plaster. They are horsehair used in the late 19th century as a support and bonding material in plaster applications. So there you go. Okay, this here is stop number 5 at 422 Oak Street. It says Dr. James Y. and Minnie Hamill built this striking brick and stone accented house in 1929. With a steep cross-gabled roof and elegant tapered chimneys, it is typical of the Tudor revival houses built in the 1920s in the old Decatur neighborhood. So it is a beautiful house, is it not? And it got a little bit of fall color over there to the right. So hope you enjoyed this one. I know I did. All right, now we are standing across the street from stop number 6 at John T. Banks Building, 402 Oak Street. It says Civil War veteran, druggist, and early city leader John T. Banks constructed this brick building in 1887. It became the center of a political storm in Morgan County in 1891 when a vote declared Decatur as the county seat. Residents then moved record surreptitiously at night from Somerville. Originally 3 stories, the Banks building houses the courthouse for 2 years while a permanent courthouse on Ferry Street was being built. Later, the building housed a hospital and retail store. After a fire in 1915, the 3rd story was removed, and the building was mainly used for apartments and boarding rooms until the 1970s. And I got news for you. It seems to be the same thing today, is what it looks like to me. But anyway, that's the story of that one. This beautiful house across the street from us is called Shadow Lawn. It's a 504 line street. It says this stately Greek revival house was historically surrounded by towering oaks that inspired its name. It was built circa 1874 for Dr. William Gardner and Elizabeth J. Evans Gill. One of the oldest practicing physicians in the state at that time, Dr. Gill came out of retirement to attend a patient during Decatur's last major yellow fever epidemic in 1888. He was one of 5 doctors who perished from the disease in the autumn of that year. Well, that's a shame, but boy, he sure had a beautiful house, didn't he? Okay, this little house is right across the street from the one we just did. This is 501 Line Street. It says the small Victorian cottage with its charming porch was home to maiden sisters Rebecca and Louise Lettingham. Rebecca had served as a supervisor of public schools in Memphis, Tennessee before returning home to be with her mother and sister. By the late 1800s to the 1920s, she operated a private school from the house, which taught Latin, French, and visual and performing arts. Louise served as a librarian at the Carnegie Library and was a broad member of the city's Library Board member, which organized during World War I to supply books and periodicals to military personnel. So that's the history of that house. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, this grand old house right here is right next door to the other one I just shot. This is the Collier home of 511 Line Street. And it says the Collier home was built for the town clerk Edward W. Collier, who married Annie E. Taylor, a niece of the Lettingham sisters, in 1885. The 2-story house shows Queen Anne influences and is an excellent example of an unusual architectural detail, rustication. Rustication is a technique where the exterior of the wood building is treated to make it appear as if it were made from stone blocks. Only the front elevation of the building has been given this finish. The side elevations reveal simple wood siding. Rustification is a very old technique. One of the earliest examples in the United States is at Mount Vernon, George Washington's estate. Wow, so you learn something every day, huh? Yeah, I can see how they say that looks like bricks. Okay, right across from the side of Shadow Lawn, that's what you're looking at here. We come over here to a little park called Fraser Park, and they have this little Japanese garden here with this nice little bridge, and I'll show you a little bit more of it here in a minute. But it says to the south side of Shadow Lawn is a wonderful place to take a break. Fraser Park, named for a Decatur business leader who was instrumental in restoring old Decatur on the west end of the park, is a traditional Japanese garden made possible by a generous donation to the city of Decatur by one of our local industries, Dakin American Inc. The water feature in the center of the park is particularly calming. And I would agree with that. Check out this nice little bridge here. very nice little bridge with these steps here. Got these nice little white flowers in here. And then, you see, got some flowers over here. And right there's your sign right there. Nice little waterfall on this side as well as like it had on the other side. That's the beginning of the park right down there. And we'll go down there and look at that in a minute. And it's going to be kind of hard to see. But back on this end, there's a little tiny shape of a pagoda down here. I'll just get right over here. Yeah, you should be able to see that now. I'll try to zoom in on that for just a second here to show that to you to make sure you see it. But let's go look at the other end of this park before it closes. Okay, so now I'm down on the other side of the park, and you see these gorgeous flowers here. And this, almost mid-October. Got these brick little gates here. And then over here in the center, we have these bushes with that little topiary area on the top of that big planter. Over here we have a seating area. Behind me with the sun, we have another seating area. Let's see if I can, there, get that blocked out that way a little bit. And over here we have a little fountain. Now, how cool is that? I like it. This is a very nice little place. And again, this is called Frazier Park. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. This was stop number 10. Let's move on to 11. Okay, what we are looking at is stop number 11. This is a 503 Ferry Street, literally across the street from the Japanese garden I just showed you. And this is called the Judge Seaborn Lynn home. It says the American four-square house has a large wraparound porch that provides shade from the afternoon sun. Constructed in 1925, it served as the home to one of Decatur's prominent leaders, Judge Seaborn Lynn, and his wife, Annie Lee Harris Lynn. Judge Lynn was appointed to a federal judgeship in 1945 by Harry Truman and served for 55 years on the bench until he passed at the age of 93 in 2000. Judge Lynn played an important role in several civil rights rulings. He served as part of a 3-judge panel that issued a ruling that helped desegregate buses and brought an end to the Montgomery bus boycott. In 1963, Judge Lynn issued an order to then Governor George Wallace stating that he could not deny any American the right to enroll at the University of Alabama. It was enforced when President John F. Kennedy called upon the state's National Guard to assist the students in enrolling. So the judge that had a big part in that lived right here. Is that not just a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous place? I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. This gorgeous beauty is stop number 12. It's the Williamson House at 517 Ferry Street, just a couple of houses down from the last gorgeous one that I shot. And this one says, this large, free, classic Victorian home was built in 1903 for George and Edna Molina Scruggs Williamson. George operated Williamson's dry goods store on Bank Street. Although this style of Victorian-era architecture is known for simpler exterior decoration and classical details, the home still has some extravagant features, including the spectacular leaded glass front door. And it's got more than that. I mean, first of all, look at the fish scales up there. Look at this wraparound porch here. Look at that curved beauty there. It goes on in the back. There's a small porch back there. That sign up there says Williamson 1903. And then I wanted to just show you what they're talking about. There. I will try to zoom in to the doors, and you can see there's side lights on it. And it's got the transom at the top. It says 517 just above that. And you see in the wraparound porch goes on around here. There's a swing there. This is a spectacular place. I like it a lot. I hope you do too.